I'm Marc Stevens with MarcStevens.net. The radio show, of course, is the No Stay Project, and we're heard every Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can catch that here on this on this website or LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and we're also simulcast on TruthFrequencyRadio.com. And one of the things we had spoken about on last show, we had, I know there was a lot of doom and gloom. You know, Mike was unfortunately convicted. But we had some good news. We continue to have good news. Mike, it's tough. Yeah, we're working on trying to get that taken care of, get him out of jail. But what Matt had mentioned on the show was that he had 3 traffic tickets. They were all thrown out. This was in Houston, Texas, and he told us a little bit about it. It was one of those times where 75% of the time the police officer does not show up after we send in the motion to dismiss. And a lot of times we've had people report on the show that the cop is there at the courthouse, but he just is not showing up for that particular one. We believe it's because they just don't want to get into the issues. It's insurmountable. They cannot show any facts to show the Constitution, code, or applicable in this jurisdiction. They cannot show a valid cause of action and or a case, and they cannot show a true adversary. And those are pretty heavy duty. That's some pretty heavy duty stuff. Those are big things, and they run away from that. We know in Mike's situation, Mike was threatened all week by a psychopath named Larry Burns, where he was not permitted to. He wasn't permitted to challenge the applicability of the code he was charged with violating. In fact, the psychopath named Larry Burns went so far as to say last Wednesday, January 9th, that he was going to allow an element of the crime to be presumed, which is what he did. But we'll get to Matt's situation, where he sent the paperwork to the police officer who wrote the ticket. Because of course he wrote the ticket. He's writing a ticket, and filing it as if as if he was some kind of responsible, educated individual, which he, of course, anyway, they don't know they don't know. That's why they're not going to these things. That's why 75% of the time they don't go. So what Matt had related to us on the show was that the police officer who wrote this ticket and who Matt had sent the motion to dismiss to, had called him, and he was kind of irate about it, and did not like that the paperwork was sent to him, and requested that the paperwork be sent to the state. And again, I think it was the next day was for a trial, and the police officer did not show up. So if we go through here, you can see it's City of Houston, and if you remember on the show, Matt let us use his whole name, so we have the whole case number there, so anybody can look this up and see that this is a legitimate order. And of course, I'll have this linked on the website. You can download that and get a copy. And but it was here it was in Texas. And let's see, order of dismissal, case dismissed. It was January 9, 2013, signed by a psychopath, which we can't make the name out. It looks like an R. Doesn't matter. It was signed by one of these judges. It is the case dismissed. That was the first one. And we go down. Here's the second one. Okay, this is a failure to display a valid Texas driver's license. So you see, this is a code violation, like anything that they come after you, and they cannot show any evidence whatsoever that the code that they are accusing you of violating applies to you in any way. It doesn't matter where you are physically. What makes you believe that just because I'm physically here, your code applies to me? Well, because the code. You'll keep getting back to the code. So your physical location is meaningless. It's no evidence whatsoever, which is why they're not showing up. And another reason is, look, if they actually believed, like the critics do, and we know who they are, the few that there are, if they actually believe, these police officers believe that and the prosecutor, if they believe there was no merit whatsoever to the motion, why wouldn't the cops show up? He's blowing off a subpoena. He's blowing off time and a half to go to court. It doesn't make any sense. It's because the issues are rock solid. They have no evidence. And if anyone thinks that they do have evidence, if you know better than the police officer and the prosecutor in this case, and this is in the Houston Municipal Court, call the show. Live every Saturday from 4 to 7. Post it on the forum if you're afraid to go public on the air, or you can't. It's an open forum where we'll hear the evidence if you've got it, because obviously this cop did not. Then we go down here. This is the third order of dismissal. Again, it's a case dismissed, signed by a judge, case dismissed. So again, here we have more evidence that that challenging jurisdiction on factual issues, not legal issues, but facts, challenging the police officer on the facts he relies on that the Constitution code apply to you, that because he's accusing you of violating a code, is very, very effective. They have no evidence, and that's why they're doing this. That's why 75% of the time we file a motion to dismiss, they won't show up, even if the motion is dismissed, because he's got to get on the stand and testify to that stuff. So they're backing out, and they're staying home or doing whatever they do, beating their wife and their kids, but they're not going into court because they don't want to be questioned on these things. So big congratulations to Matthew for standing up to the man and not just bending over and letting them do what they want, but standing up for himself, holding them to their burden of proof like everyone should do, and prevailing. And I thank him again for sending me the evidence that I could get posted. So then we have another one real quick. This has not gone to a conclusion yet. I think it probably will have a similar conclusion as Matt. This is Daniel, and he is stuck for now in the municipal court in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And so what we have here, this is a response to the motion to dismiss, where we're saying there are no facts to show the Constitution code are applicable. There's no adversary, and there's no valid cause of action. And so what he's saying here, he's agreeing what we already know, that the city of Guthrie, the plaintiff, I'm not right, this is, I'm not making this up, this is a real response. The plaintiff for the city of Guthrie, Oklahoma, a municipal corporation, which we know a corporation is a figment of the imagination. That's what the psychopaths called the Supreme Court have held a corporation to be. We know that because, well, hey, they're established under the laws of the state. They're established by law, not by bricks and mortar, and which you would consider a city. So then we come down here. Again, keep in mind as we go through this, this is a response to the motion to dismiss, where it's based on no facts. So far he's presented no facts. That the municipal court has jurisdiction regarding city ordinances, but there's no evidence, no facts alleged here that they apply to Daniel. That the ordinance under which the defendant is being prosecuted was duly passed. That has nothing to do, even if it's in full force and effect. What facts do you have beyond your opinion it's in full force and effect? There's no facts to connect it to Daniel. That the defendant Daniel has alleged to have been present within the jurisdictional city limits of the city. That's just not true. He did not do that, and people do not speak that way. This is something he's spinning, and he's grossly exaggerating anything that may have been said by Daniel. That the act complained of and alleged to be committed by the defendant occurred within the city limits. Excuse me. What is it? It's a municipal corporation. How did it occur within the limits of a corporation? That doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. It is alleged and will be proved that the defendant committed the act, but he's still neglecting any kind of evidence that the ordinance applies in the first place. No facts. And that the municipal court has authority. This is not an issue of authority. This is an issue of fact. This is an issue of jurisdiction. Where are the facts that the Constitution code apply, or the ordinance applies to Daniel, to prove that there's jurisdiction to hear it in the first place? Nothing. There's zero. So this is what you kind of expect. You ask for facts, and all he does is give you opinions. But that's all they have in legal land. That's all these attorneys have. Now, I expect that there'll be a similar result here, that the cop will either not show up, or Daniel will be able to trash the cop when he is on cross-examination. So when we hear the good news, we will report it here. And if you have a problem with anything that's been presented in this video, on my website, markstevens.net, or on the No State Project, you're more than welcome to call the show live or every Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. Present your facts. If you believe that the city of Guthrie is a real honest-to-goodness thing and not just a figment of the imagination, call the show. And you're always welcome to post on the forum if you're not able to call. Yeah, my name's Marc Stevens, and it's markstevens.net.